And so we have to just step out on faith each day, knowing we have a purpose, and then asking our guides, okay, how do I walk in that purpose today? And so in January of 2016, I was just guided to watch the Blackfish documentary. And when I did that, it was just my heart went out to all of the whales, really, but the documentary was about Tilikum. And so I started doing some research on Tilikum and all the whales that are in captivity. And this was a new thought for me. I never even thought about the whales in captivities until I saw the documentary, and I did the exploration psychically through astral travel. And again, I was still, you and I writing of Star-Seeded Ascension, Messages from the Council's book, we had lots of experience tapping into and communicating with our guides.
Yeah.
And so I guess I kind of knew what I was doing a little bit, but not really with the astral travel on Earth like that.
Welcome to the Spirit and Soul Healing Podcast, where we speak about all things related to spirituality, soul level healing, intuitive guidance, frequencies, and much more. I'm Amy Sikarskie, licensed vocational nurse, past life hypnotherapist, master intuitive energy healer, and a clairvoyant physical channel. Today's episode is brought to you in part by Spirit School Online, where we offer courses in energy therapy, free guided meditations, courses and information around learning to connect in with your spirit guides, and much more. You can find me at amysikarskie.com and offerings at spiritschoolonline.com. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Spirit and Soul Healing Podcast. I'm Amy Sikarskie, and I'm so happy to share this conversation with you today. Today, I've invited on my friend Connie Parker, and we've been friends for how many years? Like for the longest now. And it's so exciting to have her on because we, like all of us, I'm sure, have friends that are special friends, and you might go months without talking. But then you get into conversation again and you pick right back up. So that's how I feel our energy is. And we just started visiting before we hit record. I'm like, oh, let's hit record. So I want to welcome Connie. And hi, Connie. Welcome to the Spirit and Soul Healing Podcast.
Hi, and hi, everyone.
I would love for you to share just a little bit about yourself with our listeners.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I call myself born as an open channel because through hypnosis that we've done together, you and I figured out that from the very beginning at my birth, came out screaming, "Where is the light? Where is the light?" And then looking at my childhood and recognizing, yes, I saw angels and ghosts when I was 3 and 4 years old, and I could not just see them, but I could hear them. I knew the emotions of the people in my life. I could know, especially when they were sad, the negative emotions. And so that was how I grew up. And it wasn't until 2011 when I started awakening and going, hey, I have to take control of my life and figure out what's going on here. And one thing led to another, and here I am.
Here you are. And I'm so glad that this journey led us to find each other and become such close friends. For everybody listening, we met in a hypnosis class. So we're both certified hypnotherapists. We're both nurses. And that's how our journey began. And I remember one of our first conversations you were sharing with me, you're like, Amy, I can see all of these spirits around you. I can see all of your guides. And then you went into detail and I was like, oh yeah, we're going to be friends.
And was in 2013 or 2012 or 2013. I was trying to remember exactly because I graduated from the hypnosis class February of 2013. And so it was probably the end of 2012 or something that we had met. And so I was freshly just like but once I started going, wait a minute, things just started clicking. And so when I saw you and I saw all the guides that were with you, that was still new for me. I was like, whoa.
Wow.
You had a lot of angels around you and spirits, positive, loving spirits. You had a lot of guidance. And that was just, So I was awakening and so you were a part of that awakening, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it was so nice because I remember I was like, oh wow. And I was so open to, I think we'd already been talking, making acquaintance. And so I was already open to sharing and we got to know each other more and more. So then after our training, we both did the past life regression exchanges with each other. And that's when I think more information started flowing through that we've known each other before this life. I remember you were getting all of these downloads and then it was fascinating to me because you would just start to share it with me. Then all of a sudden across my mind's eye, I could see some of these lifetimes. And I was like, oh yeah, again, there's a reason that we met.
Yeah,
So,
it was no accident. It was, And, I know we say about synchronicities and how that can help guide us, right? We can look for those signs and stuff. But I had no idea, no clue. I just showed up at the hypnosis certification class, which was a miracle the way that happened. That I was there in that class and that you came in because you correct me if I'm wrong, but you had taken two of the three modules already, and then you had to come in to make up one of the modules, and that's how we met. If you had not missed that module previously, we wouldn't have met. And
well, I see where it appears that way. So what happened, this is gonna just blow your mind too. No, what happened is I found about the class, but it had already started. So I had to take the first two modules at home and to catch up. Yeah. So no, same for me. It was like, okay, something really wanted me there. And I was like, the class has already started. And then our instructor was like, well, do these first two modules. So yeah, I guess I did pop right into the group midway through.
you did. And there's no accident. And since that time, you and we've come together and then we go apart for a while. And I think it might have been a post on Instagram that you posted, and it said something to the effect that true friends can, they can come into your life and then they can go out of your life for a season. But then when they come back in, it was like they never even left. There's no apologies needed. It's just me and you accepting each other for how we are and granting space when needed. And then when we come back together, and it's just beautiful. And I think that's so I don't know if we want to get into Starseed, but I think that's a Starseed thing.
Yeah.
I think that as our confidence in why we're here, what our mission is, and then I know for me, that's my only focus right now. And how do I get that done? And it's all playing out as it should be. And here we are again, crossing paths at the appropriate time to make it happen.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And I just have to share with everybody, definitely to make it happen. Definitely our teams are in cahoots together, working together, because I feel like it was only 2 nights ago, I kept getting this vision of us on the podcast together. And then yesterday, when I reached out to you, I was like, hey, do you want to join? And boom. So within like 2 days, we're connecting and they're, pushing us together or encouraging us to come together. And there's a lot of messages that I know want to come through. And one of the things that's recently inspired me is your latest book, Tilikum's Ascension. Is that the full title? Okay.
Tilikum's Ascension.
Okay, I got it right. So you shared with everybody on YouTube this book, and when you released the first video, I was just like, okay, this is going to be so special. My heart, I could already feel the depth of the emotion. I think I commented, I was like, all right, we're doing this. And every day that you would release a section, I would look forward to that. It's just so fascinating. And the depth of Tilikum's messages and your experience it's kind of beyond words. I'm trying to find the words. I can't because it's multidimensional. There's many messages in it, and it's all flowing within this space of love and friendship. And I would love for you to share with everybody about that, about your friendship, and a little bit about the story.
Yeah. Let me just tap in. It's like I'm feeling all jittery, like Tilikum's wanting to come through, but Ariel is here really strong for me. And so Ariel is the elemental. She's like she's a fairy, and she is one of my spirit guides that her and I have had lifetimes together, where I also was an elemental, a fairy. And I know that sounds really kooky.
No, it doesn't.
Our audience, right? But Ariel is coming through now. And so I'd like to just allow her to come through because she can say things much better than I can. And I channel a little bit differently than some people. So Connie, the physical body, is always here and present. And so sometimes it's like they have to rifle through my knowledge base to give me words and expression that I know that's there that then I can speak. So sometimes I change back and forth between I and we, or so that's just kind of the way I do it. And so for your listening audience, if they channel, you have a wonderful book that you've written, and your channel book, and I have learned so much from that. It's like there is no right or wrong way to channel. It's just your own personal way.
Yeah,
you get a lot of insight on helping to get that going, though. And so a little plug for your book too.
Thanks.
So yeah, so let me just tap in and see where we're going with this. So Tilikum, so it was in, let me look at the date here. I want to be exact. So it was January the 16th, 2016. Now, so you and we had put out messages, Star-Seeded Ascension, messages from the council book. We had put that out in 2015. So Tilikum's Ascension comes shortly after that. I guess I was bored, right? Okay, we'll put Star-Seeded Ascension, messages from the council, but it's like I have to have a place to channel my energy, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And but it's because it is my purpose to get these messages out there, and I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what tomorrow looks like. I didn't know today was going to look like this.
Right.
Stepping out in faith, that's what a star seed, I think that's what we do, because as we learn in alchemy also, is that we have to be careful who we tell what we're doing, because people can sabotage us when they know what we're going to be doing. Energetically, they can sabotage us. And so we have to just step out on faith each day, knowing we have a purpose, and then asking our guides, okay, how do I walk in that purpose today? And so in January of 2016, I was just guided to watch the Blackfish documentary. And when I did that, it was just my heart went out to all of the wells, really, but the documentary was about Tilikum. And so I started doing some research on Tilikum and all the wells that are in captivity. And this was a new thought for me. I never even thought about the wells and captivities until I saw the documentary, and I did the exploration psychically through astral travel. And again, I was still, you and I writing of Star-Seeded Ascension, Messages from the Council's book, we had lots of experience tapping into and communicating with our guides.
Yeah.
And so I guess I kind of knew what I was doing a little bit, but not really with the astral travel on Earth like that, not so much. And so, yeah, so as I, when I started recording, well, first off, let me back up just a little bit. So right after I had my meeting with Tilikum, the next year he passed away, almost 1 year to the day. He passed away on January the 6th, 2017. And it was January the 16th, 2016, when I had went out and started, so I think that's all ironic, right? And it turned out to be 11 days between his passing and the anniversary of when we met. And so I had, anyway, that year I had written Tilikum, and I blogged it. Just put our meetings and our stories in a blog. And that website that I put the blog on, it got so hacked, it was beyond saving. And I had to delete all of that. And it was just heartbreaking for me. But it convicted me at the same time to write the book. So I wound up rewriting the book, trying to make it sound better, but there were still lots of parts in it that I wasn't sure about. But I just felt like I had to write it. And so in 2020, I put out the first edition on Amazon. And even though I wasn't happy with it, but it was like, just trying to push through. And so I don't know, it just felt right for me. And I guess this is right timing. It felt right for me this past year in 2022 to rewrite it and to write it in a way where I was happy with it, and to go and find the answers that I didn't know the answers to, get into meditation, figure out how this all worked, what happens to animal spirits when they die. And so is it similar to what happens to humans? And so it's the human interaction that made the difference with Tilikum.
Okay.
Because of his human interaction. And if we look at the pets in our life, our dogs and cats and such, we can see how those who have more interaction with us, they learn. And I think I know I have a lot of pets that have passed away that I have sent them over into to heaven, into the spiritual realm, so that they're waiting for me. And so, but there's a lot to that. There really is a lot to what happens to animal spirits, or what can happen to animal spirits, but it's also the same for humans. Because we talk about, earthbound spirits and walk-ins, and, there's all these different terms that we don't really understand completely. Maybe some of us were just glimpses of what that actually means. But I feel like that's a big part of my platform, is working with Ariel and the elemental kingdom, and with animals, and so that we can make Earth a safer, an energetically safer space. So the spirits that are not supposed to be here are not here.
So part of why you are here and connecting with your guides in the animal world and Ariel, the elementals, a part of that knowing is this understanding of what energies should be on Earth, what ones actually are part of, let's say, like the original plan, or helping humans in a way to have experiences that are beneficial versus ones that would be invasive to the planet or the astral realms around the planet. And so, do you want to share a little bit about any of that and your experiences?
So my very first experience with, there was actually two experiences that I would like to share. One is when I was 3 years old, and I have a 3-year-old grandson, and I can't imagine him having this experience, but we don't really know what our children are having. So as a 3-year-old, we lived in front of a cemetery, and my mother had me go over to the cemetery, and she wanted me to collect pecans. And so I'm over in the cemetery collecting pecans so she can make a pecan pie. And up in the tree is a squirrel, and it is like cursing me out. It's like, and I understood that squirrel to be saying, my pecans, my pecans, my pecans. And I ran home. I also saw a spirit of a ghost of a lady that was there. And I'm not sure at the time, I didn't notice whether she was a spirit crossed over and just visiting Earth, or if she was an earthbound. I didn't know any of that. I was really more upset by the squirrel telling me that those were his pecans. And so the other thing is that then back when I first started awakening in 2011, 2012, that it must have been 2012, and it was during the summer, the year we had a really bad heat wave. And we had found a baby squirrel on the road. It had fallen out of the tree, and it was near death. We took it to a veterinarian, and they said, well, it has heat stroke and it's probably not going to survive, but you can try to help save it. And they gave me, how to feed it and all of this. And it did eventually die. And so one day I'm standing out on my back porch, and there's this squirrel up in the tree cussing me out. And I just felt like that was its mother saying, you had my baby, where's my baby? Oh. And so I know it sounds crazy, but I really feel like that it goes to show, and the same with Tilikum, we don't understand how animals communicate with and how they can communicate with us, and how they've been here a lot longer than the human race in a lot of cases. And so it makes me feel very small in my understanding of animals. What happens to them when they pass away, and how they can communicate with us if we would just listen and open up our ears. But that little squirrel too, the baby, I named it Sunflower, and I don't know why I named it Sunflower, but it followed me around in spirit. Like, that was really my first experience, like my recognizable spirit, or recognizable that this is a spirit and it's following me around. That was what really opened my eyes to that fact. And so sunflowers have kind of been a theme for me. Like,
yeah. Right. Yeah. We had talked about when we drove from San Antonio to Dallas. That was a really special trip to do our Life Between Life certification with the Newton Institute. There was a course there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was that field of sunflowers. It was so
Yeah.
pretty.
Yeah.
And I haven't driven that road since. I don't think I've seen all the sunflowers.
Yeah. I don't know if they're still growing. So much of the properties have sold, but I remember we were driving from San Antonio to Dallas, and we drove up on this sunflower field, and I just had to stop and take some pictures.
Yeah.
And all of their faces were pointing away from us because they were facing the sun. And I was frustrated. I was like, I want to be able to take a picture. And they were big. They were almost as tall as me. So they were like 5 foot tall. And
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to get a picture of the head of one, but they were all facing towards the sun the other way. And I remember as I stood there, and I don't know why this thought came to me or why the impression, except for that I feel like that it was for this time now. And even though that was back in 2013 that happened, that I took the pictures and the sunflowers were facing the sun, I feel like that it was for this time now. And the message that I got or received at the time was that looking at these rows of sunflowers facing the sun, it was like they were soldiers
Mm-hmm.
standing there in their rows to face the sun, to draw in the heat and the sun and the light and the life for their mission, for their purpose here on earth. And I remember thinking that's really odd that I would be thinking that. And then not long ago, I was standing out in my backyard, and I have it landscaped with river boulders because grass just doesn't grow out here. And Ariel told me, Connie, pick up that rock. And so I picked up one of the billions of rocks in my yard, and I looked at it, and she said, "You're that rock." I said, "Okay, I'm this rock. What does that mean?" And she says, "Well, put the rock back down." So I put the rock back down, and she says, "Now look at all of those rocks. All of those rocks are our army. They
Mm-hmm.
are our soldiers." And then the sunflower picture started coming up as something I might like to review in my photos, the sunflower picture. And then I was reminded about how I felt like the sunflowers were the soldiers here on earth facing the sun to get their directions, which is kind of like what we were talking about earlier, how you and we come together at times and then we go apart to do things. And I think that if I have a message for star seeds, it's get busy.
Yeah.
And yeah, we get help from people, and encouragement to help us, but really we have to do it. It's like, if it is to be, it must be me, and I have to do my part, and you do your little part, and the rest of the star seeds, they're doing their part. But we facing the sun, we have to be looking at our source.
Yeah.
I feel like to whom much is given, much is expected. And that goes along with, I share in my autobiography how I'm 60 now. I say that all the time, but next year, just wait, I'll be saying I'm 61. But I really do see things from a perspective now that I never could have seen before. And what I hope is that I can share the perspective that I see now at 60, meaning I got to get it done. I got to quit wasting time. And so if there's people out there and they know they have a mission, they have a calling, start, to do it now. Don't wait. And because I feel like I have so much that I have to do, and how am I going to get it all done? And so I just have busy, 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 busy.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been there. Yes. And then there's those cycles and phases where it's like rest. So we go through seasons of life, but I have noticed that within my life and across the collective that right now there's this energy coming to like push us more to be in the forefront. And when you were talking about the sunflowers and their mission and purpose is to absorb the light, it reminds me of a message that the council shared just the other day about sometimes it was an interesting message because they were speaking about the contrast of us feeling the pressure to do all of this stuff like all at once, and how we can do things or be by really grounding in the light. Like that's number one, right? So what I found is when you're in your alignment and you're in your purpose, your mission, you're connected in, you're absorbing that light, you're grounded in that light, and then everything starts to flow. You don't have that nervous anxiety flutter at your heart where you feel like you're super far behind. Instead, it becomes this encouragement where they lead you day by day. So some days maybe I work quietly behind the scenes, or I take the time like a day just for myself, but I'm always holding this frequency with the awareness of the interdimensional worlds and the why am I here. And really what's coming to mind, just like personally, my awareness lately has been life and death, being in the body and not being in the body, and how much support we have, how much support is there from our guides, from spirit, from family that's not in the body. And then like how important is it to be in the body and this commitment to the body and to take care of the body. And with that, it's to bring the light in and ground it. So when we're ready, we will have all the resources within us already when the moment comes. And I feel like since we've been chatting for a few years, you've had all of this information trickle in. And now I feel like it's here and you're ready to share. Like you said, the book, like you have pieces, but now you see it from another angle or get the full perspective. Or actually, one part of being a channel is knowing what exact questions to ask and what information to bring through based on our, those questions, the intentions that we have. And sometimes we don't know. It's all about timing. And to that, it feels like the timing it is right now.
Right.
So I'm grateful that you shared that because it's been definitely a theme coming up.
Yeah, I think it is a collective thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And the foundation again is to get yourself
Mhm.
together, like present, committed, aware, realigned, really embodying your light. And then it's all going to start to flow. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and I know for me, and it seems like one of my messages and platforms is know yourself, know your energy, know your experiences that you've had in your life and how those experiences have shaped you, and to consciously create, to
Mm-hmm.
be aware of. And so for me, because I'm constantly changing and, moving, I'm a number 5 in numerology. And so for me, it's been focus on one thing at a time and finish that. And then when you finish that, go do another thing.
Mm-hmm.
But for someone else, that might be completely different. So
Yeah.
it's just depending on your circumstances and your
Right.
life too. If you're
Yeah.
raising kids, if you have small children at home, then your life looks completely different based, what you're going to be able to get accomplished as far as your mission. But I feel like that a part of my platform is that even if you're just journaling and you're learning about yourself, that you're preparing. That's a part of preparing yourself
Yeah. It's
for what.
important.
So where are you, and what can you do in the now to make yourself better and better prepared for whatever is going to come next. So I don't know if you knew or not, but when I started recording Tilikum's Ascension for the anniversary reading this year, so the 2023 anniversary reading was, it had been 7 years since him and I had communed and 6 years since he passed. But so I thought it was going to be like a diving deeper that I was going to share on social media. But when I got into it and got further into the book and we started talking about astral travel and the healing center that souls go to on the other side, that you can go to a healing center even now. And I think you call the Angels of Light, or what do you call
the team that I work with, the Council of Light? Yeah.
Okay, the Council of Light. And I call them Angels of Light. I don't know if they're the same or not, but I don't know what you feel about that.
They blend. Yeah. Like they work together. So it's like I feel this group here and this group here, and they overlap. Kind of how we work.
Yeah. Like there's a lot of them, I feel like.
Yeah.
And so that was, but when I started reading those parts in the book and then doing the diving deeper that was supposed to be shared on publicly, it was just too deep and it was too much. It was like, this is like, a lecture teacher, whatever. It was diving really deep into what people believe and giving information about what I clairvoyantly, clairaudiently, and what I experience. So I wound up putting those, I went ahead and went with that, and recorded them all. And I'm in the process of doing some editing, but they're going into a program on my website. So I have, but it's like, what are you ready for? And the reason why I felt compelled and led to not put those on social media is because a lot of people are not ready to hear those things. They can't understand them. You say astral travel, and some people are like, what does that mean? And maybe they have their own idea about what it means, but then how do we do it? And I know in the past, you and I have talked about how people's chakras are out of balance because they're awakening, like spontaneous awakenings, but then not getting the grounding and the balancing because they're wanting the experiences of the third eye and all that. So I think that you take clients and you do sessions. I don't do a whole lot of that because I feel like that I want to have a bigger platform where the information is just there and lots of people can go to it. So that again just goes to show that if I try to model what I'm doing after you, I'm going to miss it. I have to find my own unique way of how I'm supposed to present. And so,
yeah. We all have a flow and a mission and a style. And like you say, you're constantly changing. Same. We have to be flexible. The earth experiences movement. It's change. It's fluid. So we need to be able to be as agile with it while staying within our frequency. And that's why personal care every day to align and balance your chakras and pull your light in to connect with spirit and source is a really good approach to keep you focused and really dedicated in that frequency for the inspiration and the messages, the mission, like aspects of the mission as it comes along. And I want to chat a little bit about Tilikum's book because I remember after we wrote messages from the councils, you're mentioning him to me, and I had just moved out of the state. And so I didn't really get to keep up with it all. And briefly, you would share a few things. And now after getting to experience the story, well, all that you've put out so far, I know you've shared there's more, there's more. I just felt so fascinated by it. And you brought up a couple of aspects to it about communication and animals and souls and how they view or see reality and how humans, interact with life. But there's the one part that I would always smile in the book, and it made me like, he's just so cute and fun because when he would eavesdrop on your thoughts and it caught you off guard.
Yeah.
Can you share with the listeners a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was ongoing and constant. And I never knew when he was going to come in. And that was when I wrote the book, I tried to leave and we did this with messages from the councils too. It's like the message, what they said is what they said.
Yeah.
And he is a character. He was a character. He really was. And And he would, I guess, I guess fear, I don't like to really use that word, but it made me afraid, because it was like, he can just intrude on my thoughts at any time. But it made me learn how to protect myself psychically, and but in a loving way with him, because most of the time I didn't mind if he came through. But there's a surprise ending from in the book, and I don't know how I'm going to share it. I put it in the diving deepers that are over in the Teachables account. But yeah, he had a change of heart at the end. I'll just tell you that. So the ending that's in the book is like not the ending.
Of course.
But he is quite a character. He really is. And he has got his stuff together. And I will share this, though, that he has reincarnated, and he's a baby. He's about, I guess he's about a year old now. Yeah, he would have been a year old at the end of last year. And he's still in communication with me. He pops in when he wants to give me messages and stuff. And so a part of what he tells me is that, so like he's aware, and that encrypted memory bank that we talk about in the book, that's still real for him. And he is still aware of, he can go in and tap, and so he's out there. So if someone wants to make contact with him, he is alive. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that would be curious to know if anybody's had any experiences with him other than me.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Well, wells are so powerful and majestic and big and strong, and the wisdom that they carry. So did he come back as a well?
Yeah. Yes, he is a well.
Okay. Because
are you right?
Yeah.
Okay. So hold on one second, and let me get a shirt.
Okay.
Let me see if you can see this. So he gave me this shirt. And yeah, I had thought I was buying it for my little grandson. But you see the killer whale down at the bottom?
Yeah.
You see the turtle, which represents our turtle that, remember, we had a red-footed tortoise. Its name was Charlotte, and it passed away. Well, she reincarnated as a sea turtle. And then Tilikum, he was going to be a killer whale again, but he told me, he said, no, I don't want to be a killer whale. I don't want to be known as a killer anymore. And so he come back as a humpback whale. And he came back as a female. So she, but still when he comes through to communicate with me, it's still kind of a masculine, because he wanted to remain like masculine and strong, and wants to be big. He wants to be really big, so nobody can catch him ever again. But he wanted to be a female so that he could have babies and be nurturing, and stay close to his mom and in the pod family, that he didn't want to be kicked out. If he was a male, they do that, they have. So yeah. So
wow.
Surprise ending.
Yeah, because that makes so much sense too. He was alone. He didn't get to stay, and some of the stories in the book talk about that, like how even they would bully him when he was in the wild. And so you had mentioned something a minute ago about, like, yes, the communication and him tapping in. I just wanted to clarify for listeners, that was when he was in the body. So his body hadn't crossed yet. And I don't even know if you knew if he was sick at that point, but so you would just, he would just astral travel over to you after you make connection. And that leads me to this thought. Do you think it's because you had this special connection already from other lives? Or what do you think? Like, how did that happen? Can that happen for everybody? Could
Yeah.
could he do that with anyone if he wanted to?
Well, a part of the messages that I've been given is that, and the big thing is soul families. So Tilikum and I, we're kind of like, we're a part of the same soul family. We limit our belief and our thinking when we think, oh, we've always only been human. See, but when we start thinking, oh, well, we could have been, other things, mer persons, or we could have lived on other planets and we look different there. So then soul family, then a part of our soul family, they may not look human. And so Tilikum and I guess if I hadn't had the interaction with him, then I would think, well, he's like an animal totem or an animal spirit guide, but we actually had lifetimes together. And so, yes, energetically, he knew what my energy felt like, because my soul energy, it's the same now as it was then, which is why he was able to pick up on those lifetimes that we had together, because he was, and he didn't even know that he was doing it. It wasn't some formula.
Yeah.
And so again, like the spontaneous awakenings that many of us are having, right? It's like, well, how did I know how to do that? How did I know that information? And that's why one of the passages in the book that we wrote, Messages from the Councils, that always sticks out to me, it's all about the energy.
Yeah.
It's all about the energy.
I remember that. That was a strong
Yeah.
message. Did that come through you or me as the channel? I think it came through you.
Remember,
I don't
but
either.
I was reading in the book before we got on camera, and I was reading one passage and I was like, did I say that or did Amy say that? And we had a lot of that, right? Because it was like, because energetically we've had other lifetimes together. And so it's like, the law, that another thing we don't really understand how it really works is the law of attraction. How were we attracted to each other? How was Tilikum and I, how was I led to do to watch the documentary Blackfish, and then to go, and I thought, oh, well, he's an animal, I'm just going to go look, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, and he recognized, like, he connected with me.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, we didn't understand that we had past lives together, but we really don't understand the law of attraction, and that being energy.
Oh my gosh, I have to share a story, because to that, it's just popping in my head. So this is when I lived in San Antonio, probably around the time that we were working together on the book. And well, you would know. So I woke up one morning and there was a dancing blue cat, like a cartoon with a top hat dancing, wanting to get my attention. So I woke up, I'm laying in bed, so I look up above me and there's this cat dancing. And I was like, what in the world? I didn't even know there was such things as a blue cat, but I looked it up and there is a Russian blue. I was like, okay, I just learned something. Then for like the whole week, I kept getting this pull to go to the animal shelter. So I go to the animal shelter and sure enough, there's a blue cat, a Russian blue. But this family was sitting with, I was there for over an hour waiting. And I was like, well, maybe I'm supposed to adopt this other one. Long story I won't get into, but another one attracted my attention. But it wasn't friendly. It didn't want to go home with me. So I'm like, well, okay, they're going to adopt the blue cat. I don't really know why I was here. So as I'm getting ready to leave, they left and they left the kitty. And I was like, what? So I knew he was for me. So I get this kitty, name him Bodhi. He's our big boy, Bodhi, Russian blue, huge, huge cat. And when we were out in California, my sister came to visit and he was sitting there just minding his own business. And they had not met yet. She walks in the door and he freaked out. His eyes got big and he was like, you could tell. I mean, he's very animated. I'm like, whoa. And so then it turned out that I did a session for my sister, a past life regression. And she's like, oh, I know, Bodhi. We were both cats together. And she went into detail about their experience. And so what reminded me of this is that he recognized her before we even knew, right?
Yeah.
And then it was like, how did I even meet him? However spirit works, he came into my life. He's like, I'm here. I'm in a body, better come get me. And he's a
Yeah.
stinker. I mean, I shouldn't talk like this because he'd be totally sad, but he's got an attitude sometimes. And I'm like, good thing I know you, because I don't know if I'd put up with this nonsense otherwise.
Yeah.
So, however it is, so family connections, they find us, we find them, and missed connections. I'm hearing that term. Like that's why connections can be missed. And you would probably feel some level of sadness and not know where or why that was happening. So it's always important to follow, just be curious. Maybe we don't know the reasonings, but we follow our promptings and the messages. But that just reminded me of it when you said that Tilikum recognized you. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
Bodhi recognized my sister. So they're
Yeah.
they're just so smart. That wisdom. I don't think they lose the memories. Like we have that amnesia. Would you feel that? Or
Yeah. I think that because many of the animals, from my experience, is that they've reincarnated here on Earth. And so they're really, they know Earth. They're ancient Earth beings. Whereas many star seeds, we've been to planets, on other planets, and we leave our bodies. And I was actually reading in the Messages book how we were talking about how some star seeds are work better under the gravity, and some star seeds work better above the gravity, in that psychic abilities, and they work and like send their energy down into the earth, whereas some work in the earth. And that's a big revelation. So I think the animals, they're just very earthy, but they're ancient. They really know how things work here on earth. And many of them are from, they have seen the destruction of the earth many times, which my guides tell me that the earth has been it has started over again. The cycle has started over again many, many times, many more times than what our geologists and scientists are saying that it has. And many of these animal souls, they've been here the whole time in one form or another. They've gotten bigger, smaller, to adapt to the earth.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Do we have time for one little more story about a bird?
Oh yes, let's do.
So, and this happened not too long ago, but my cat, my white cat, Lucy, my husband calls her Lucifer, but I call her Lucy Light. My Lucy Light cat brought in a bird. And of course, I'm like, brought a bird in the house. And I'm like, no, drop it, let it go, trying to get the bird away from her. And finally she drops it. But the bird disappears in the house and we don't know what happened to it. We don't hear a peep out of it. And we look and look, we can't find her. Well, a few days later, my dog was very interested in a corner over by the China hutch. And that little bird had come out from behind the hutch. It looked terrible. It looked like it was just about to die. And its wings were all, a mess. And so I picked it up in my hands and I was like, Ariel, what do I do with this bird? It's still alive, but, I don't know what to do with it. So I went out on the front porch with it in my hands and it flew off. And I was like, that is a miracle. It just flew off. And so the next week I'm at my dentist, and my dentist is about an hour away from my house. And they have the long floor to ceiling windows, and I'm looking out the window, sitting in the dentist chair, and this little bird comes and sits on a branch on a tree outside the window. And it is just chirping, chirping, chirping. And it's, doing a little dance. And it's a bird exactly like what I had rescued the week before. And then it hops down. I'm just like, what is this, Ariel? This is very strange. It hops down off of the branch. It comes right up to the glass. It looks me right in the eye through the glass, and it starts flapping its wings, standing there on the ground, flapping its wings. Now, I don't know how. I know it sounds crazy, but somehow I felt like that little bird was saying, thank you for rescuing my brother, or my, like, what is that?
Wow. They communicate. Yeah, they know.
We don't understand. How do birds know to fly, south, or, how do they know to fly in a V formation? They're communicating with one another.
Mm-hmm.
And so we don't really understand, I think, is a part of what I'm getting big time. And really, like, in my opinion, animals, they have the dominion over the earth. We're the visitors. We're the, as far as Earth Gaia herself,
Yeah.
and the animals that were seeded here and that then grew up and are a part of her.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah. I think I definitely feel like they're more connected to the collective or the unity consciousness, especially of the particular breed or their family grouping. So their flock or their pod, and that they have that telepathic or claircognizant, that knowing. And so I'm sure the message got, out there. Oh, this woman helped little birdie, and they all knew it. And so he probably recognized, you're probably a famous rock star or something. Wait, she's in my neck of the woods. Oh my gosh, I gotta go thank her. They do communicate.
or it could have been Ariel,
True.
Ariel said, because that's another thing that we don't really understand either, is elementals. And a big part of my confusion or whatever when I put out the book in 2020 was Ariel's whole part, because I felt like Ariel had, the fairy had kind of deceived me or lied to me, or, like she left me confused when she should have, helped me to clear up my understanding, and she didn't. Yeah, I'm feeling like that's really right. I'm feeling like, yeah. And remember, I said in the very beginning that Ariel was here with me, but then when I was like, okay, come on, talk, she wouldn't say anything. And so working with the fairies, I think, is very important for us to learn how to do. And just as we talk about grounding and getting out in nature and communing with nature, well, that's, Ariel, and she's shaking her head. Yes, that's right, Connie, that we need to do a better job at listening to nature. Mm-hmm. And to tuning into energetically, not just what we can get from it, with the grounding and clearing and things like that, but the actual reasons behind all of that.
Yeah. Yep.
And that gets back to the fairies. I mean, we talk a lot about connecting with our angels and our spirit guides, and she's saying, yeah, stand up for me in the element.
Right. I mean, we're on Earth, we're in a body, we're here in this realm. So it would make sense that we become more conscious, more aware. I'm also hearing like more forgiving. So I don't know what that's all about, but so that we can connect more with the nature elements. Yeah, the elementals are special. I feel like we could talk forever, because I remember when we moved back to Fort Worth and you visited, and there was the elemental. I don't know if I want to say he was protecting our space. He was kind of upset because they built a house on his land. And I remember you helped us with that. And we did plant him an agave, this big, beautiful agave. Yeah, that's what he had requested.
Yeah. he was not happy that they had come in and cleared all the land of all the trees and the bushes and everything.
Mhm.
Yeah. Wanted his own special plant.
Yeah. I think a big part of it too was not only had the land been cleared, but then the builders replaced it with vegetation that wasn't really native to the space. And
Mhm.
so we started to bring in some more of the desert vegetation, and that plant, that agave, I mean, I don't know if agaves are supposed to or if they just if this is typical, but every year I would get all these new baby agaves, like 5, 6. I mean it was a big one, but it was thriving. It really was thriving. It was well cared for and really, really loved.
Yeah. And that's in that, with my land, with my property here, I've had some bushes just come up, and I want to pull them up because they don't go in the landscape, and an elemental will come through and go, no, I worked hard making that happen.
I want it right there. It says my baby. It's my creation. I'm taken care of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's so sweet. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for coming on the podcast today and speaking about everything fun and amazing.
I know. I was just saying, I loved it. I love visiting with you and sharing, and it's my privilege and my honor.
Aw. Aw, thank you, love. Yeah, I just so love when we get to connect, and it's funny because we could make it happen more often and then life happens. Like, oh my gosh, it's so full. So I'm really just so grateful that you're here and that the timing worked out on such short notice. And I was hoping if you could share with everybody just a little bit of an overview of Tilikum's Ascension, the book, and where they can find it.
Right. So Tilikum's Ascension, the book is available in paperback, a journaling type book on Amazon, or you can get it in the Kindle edition, or I have it on my website in an ebook edition if they want to do that. And then there's also on my website, they can do a diving deeper if they would like to, where I really go in and explain what was happening and my thoughts on it, and some more journaling prompts for them to really get into their life and situations and dive in deeper about their beliefs about things. So,
Beautiful. Okay. Yeah. And I'll put your information in the show notes.
yeah, ccstarseeds.me. And so the reason why I am doing everything through ccstarseeds.me, because, people are impersonating. Bless your heart. You have so many people, impersonate you. I get friend requests and messages from you, and they're not you.
Yeah.
And so, to be safe, the way I'm doing it is everything is ccstarseeds.me. You go to my website, and then there's links and everything I'm doing, so you're secure.
Yeah, thank you for that. Also, it brought to my awareness this other topic. I don't know if I shared with you, I've even had spirits impersonate me, like some of my maybe you even shared with me, but I have a handful of very close friends that have known me for a long time, and they'll be like, "Hey, Amy, the spirit came through into my house during the day or at night in dream state, and it was acting like you. It said it was you. It looked like you, but then I fell into the vibe and it wasn't you, or I looked a bit closer and it wasn't you, or I could see that it was morphed to pretend to be me." And I'm like, are you kidding? I was just like, this is so bizarre because I'm having people impersonate me on social platforms, right? In the
Yeah.
physical world, but in digital. And now in spirit state to my psychic friends, I'm like, oh my gosh. So yeah, I think so having that main space. So mine is my website, amysikarskie.com, and yours is your website. And it's like, hey, if you ever have any question, reach out to the source.
Right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's again where it's very important that we learn energies, and so you have very wise followers that were wise enough to say, hey, this is not right. This is not Amy. This is not the energy of Amy.
Yeah. Yeah. And like one of my friends, she called it out. She's like, nice try. And it disappeared.
Yeah.
It just left because, so it knew, or she knew. But yeah, so I'm really happy that you were able to share your website. And the book is amazing. So I know we touched on so many things today, and I just want to
Yeah.
encourage everybody to really take the time to read it, because the messages are so powerful how they came through. It just opened my heart so much. And not only is he the sweetest and funniest little guy or big guy, I mean, he's a whale,
Yeah.
but I just found a lot of adoration towards him. And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And strength of character. His character, even when he was alive, was so strong. And now that he's reincarnated and he's like a 1-year-old baby humpback
mm.
female, he, she,
Yeah, yeah.
operating masculine energy there too, to protect himself. So he really did plan out this life well, it sounds like.
There's a lot of conscious intention and details going into this one. Yeah.
And that was because of his human experience, his experience with humans and with me, that led him to those revelations that ordinary whales out in the wild don't have.
Yeah.
They just recycle, reincarnate. And so it's the same with us, with each person that we tell and we explain these things to, and their awareness grows. And it's, it's just, what is the word? It's like the sunflower seeds.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
It's like, what are those things that you blow?
The
And then,
dandelions.
yeah,
Yeah.
like
All
that.
the message goes out and it's planted and it changes. Yes.
No matter where they are in their life, what season they're in is important.
It is.
And change and look different as they grow and learn and go into new seasons. Yeah, we need to catch up, do this more often, or
Yes, for sure.
and you understand, we understand. We're on a mission.
We
We're like
are.
all lined up in a row, looking at this, each of us looking at the sun to draw in our energy, to get our strength from.
Yeah. Yes. Aw. Thank you. Thanks so much for being here and for the beautiful confirmation and the messages and light that you're sharing. And I want to thank our listeners for being here, and I appreciate you all so much. You can find all the info and show notes below. And I'll see you again on the next episode of the Spirit and Soul Healing Podcast.